Hello, my name is Tyler Petermichel. So for this ethical dilemma presentation, I'm going to be talking about some recent events of top military leaders being fired from their positions, and how this is kind of goes hand in hand with the basically getting rid of the DEI initiative across the entire federal government to include the military. DEI meaning diversity, equity, and inclusion. And this is being pushed, this whole push to get rid of this is being pushed by the president, current president Donald Trump. So basically, we're going to talk about how this kind of looks like with President Trump's history and how people kind of see him. Certain people kind of see him, certain people kind of see him. They have their prejudice and opinions about the president. Basically, to go into specifics, believe that he might be racist and misogynistic. So we'll talk about how this kind of further supports that, whether that's true or not. We won't really go into that. We obviously don't know exactly what the president and what his feelings are, but we can kind of talk about how this is going, how this kind of affects that and kind of portrays that a little bit more. And we'll talk about some ways that the president can better communicate his plan on why he's getting rid of this initiative in the first place, and what his ideas are and how he can better communicate to American people. So here's a list of individuals who were fired on Friday, February 21st, 2025. We have Joint Chief of Staff Chairman General C.Q. Brown Jr. He has 40 years of service in the military and in the Air Force, including 16 months as the Joint Chief of Staff. Next, we have Chief of Naval Operations Admiral Lisa Franchetti, who headed the U.S. Sixth Fleet and U.S. Naval Forces Korea. And then finally, we have Vice Chief of Staff of the Air Force General Jim Slife, who has led the Air Force Special Operations Command and also deployed to the Middle East. So one thing all of these individuals have in common, they're all very qualified, very deserving of their positions. You definitely could argue that getting to that point in the military at the top, basically the top of your branch or the top of the military in general, requires a lot of skill and a lot being very, very qualified and very good at what you do, very good at your job. So these individuals definitely deserving of where they were, what their job was. But first something that pops out though, first individual, General C.Q. Brown Jr. was a black man. And as we were talking about, President Trump has been trying to get rid of the DEI initiatives, diversity, inclusion, or equity and inclusion in the federal government and the military. So this basically General Brown being a black man and also being someone who discussed racial relations quite a bit, including after the George Floyd incident back in 2020, discussing racial relations within our country, within the United States. So basically him being a black man and talking about that, you could argue that President Trump wanted to get rid of him because of that. And that's part of the reason, like with DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion, he's trying to get rid of all of the individuals who stand for that. And then next up, we have Chief of Naval Operations Admiral Lisa Franchetti, who is a female, and she is the second female to be fired by Trump. It's the top from a top military position. The first one being Coast Guard Commandant Admiral Linda Fargan, who was fired just a day after President Trump was sworn in. So this doesn't look good, I guess you would say, for Trump, being some of the judgments that people have about him, basically being racist and misogynistic, basically firing someone, a black man who's discussing race relations in our country, and then also firing the second female within 30 days of being in the office doesn't look the best for Trump. And then also, finally, talking about Vice Chief of Staff of the Air Force General Jim Slife. He is not part of a minority group. He is a white man, but he also was qualified for what he was doing. And we'll talk more about why that's significant, why I brought him up in a later slide. So moving into my alternatives and recommendation for President Trump and his initiative to get rid of the DEI and the federal government and the military and him firing these top military leaders. We'll look into who he's appointing to be the replacement for General C.Q. Brown Jr., and that is retired Lieutenant General Dan Kane is who President Trump is appointing. And he retired as a 3-star general, and he's an accomplished pilot who is a national security expert, successful entrepreneur, and a war fighter. He's also has a lot of special operation experience. So he's also obviously very qualified and very capable of doing the job that needs to be done. So basically what I think the alternatives and recommendation for President Trump is he just needs to be more clear about his idea about diversity, of getting rid of DEI, the diversity, equity, and inclusion. He needs to be more clear that he's going for individuals who he feels is the right fit for the job, they're right qualified and fit for the job. He doesn't care about basically what your color your skin is or what gender you are or anything like that. He needs to be more clear about that because people have these notions about him that he's racist and misogynistic, and when he starts firing individuals who are black or a woman or females, then that doesn't help his cause at all in trying to basically tell people that he's not misogynistic and racist. So he needs to be more clear and to the American people, to the public, and understanding to them that he's just trying to hire people who he feels are the most qualified and the best qualified for the job. So some next steps that I would have for the situation would be to reassure the goal. The president needs to reassure what he wants to do, what he's trying to do with getting rid of the DEI initiative. And that's basically he's trying to, as I've said before, trying to hire the most qualified, best individuals for the job that he feels are for the job. He needs to also reassure that diversity is definitely a strength. It is a strength to have people from different walks of life, different cultures, different areas of the world or the country coming together and sharing their ideas and their thoughts. Myself being in the Air Force myself, I see that firsthand every day. I see people from all over the country, and in some occasions all over the world, coming together, and we teach each other things, we learn from each other, we better each other. So diversity is definitely a strength, and I think the president needs to communicate that better to the American public, that diversity is definitely a strength, and he's not trying to get rid of it, or at least I hope he's not trying to get rid of it. And then he needs to communicate his plan better. He needs to communicate what he's trying to do, which kind of goes hand in hand with reassuring the goal. He needs to communicate that he's trying to hire the best individuals for the job and not trying to get rid of diversity completely. Here's a list of my references. So to conclude, the president needs to be more clear with his plan. He needs to understand that certain individuals in our country view him as misogynistic and racist. Whether that's true or not, he needs to assure people that that is not true. Him firing individuals that are black and female from top military positions where they were definitely qualified to be there doesn't make him look that great. So he needs to reassure that his goal is he's trying to put people into the positions that he feels are best for the job, and that's also the reason why he is trying to get rid of DEI within the federal government and the military. He wants people who are qualified and the best for the job, and not just being hired because of their skin color or because of their gender. So he needs to reassure that, and he needs to also reassure that diversity is a strength. It's important to have diversity because it helps with ideas and people learning from each other, all different walks of life coming together. And then he needs to clarify his plan to the American people, what he's trying to do, and what his plans are and what his goals are with his actions. So anyway, that does it for my presentation. I appreciate your time. Thank you and have a good day.